Millions of people have sold things online as an easy way to make some extra cash. But what if it suddenly became a lot more complicated? Third-party e-commerce platforms like eBay, Poshmark, Mercari, Etsy, Tradesy, and Offer Up say a lot of people could be in for a surprise next year, all due to a recent law change. So if you've ever sold anything on one of these platforms, you're going to want to watch this video, because I have a rare interview with eBay's Senior Director of Government Affairs, Mike Dabbs, about how his company is fighting the law.
But members of Congress on both sides of the aisle look at this issue and say, well, I don't think that's what we were intending to do.
This all goes back to President Biden's American Rescue Plan. You probably remember its stimulus checks and COVID relief measures, but there was a lot more to it. This massive piece of legislation is 243 pages long. This video is just about one line in this document under Section 8 Miscellaneous Provisions. What it says in there has got the major secondhand marketplaces like eBay, Poshmark, Mercari, Tradesy, Etsy scrambling to work together, joining forces to fight a tax change that came with this legislation. Their new group is called the Coalition for 1099K Fairness. Now, the bottom line is that they're worried that this new tax law will stop a lot of people from going to their closets, looking for whatever they can just to sell online to make ends meet and get by. First, let's go over the facts and how the tax change is going to work. If you sell more than $600 worth of items on any of these platforms in 2022, they'll send you one of these forms, a 1099K. The 1099K isn't new, but it used to be issued only to people who sold more than $20,000 or 200 items a year on third-party platforms. The law change lowered that threshold to just $600 and no minimum amount of sales. It doesn't matter how many sales you make. It could be one sale, a phone on eBay, a Louis Vuitton bag on Poshmark, a PlayStation on Mercari, or even several little sales, like selling $50 worth of your old stuff online for each month of the year. If you reach $600, you'll get a 1099K. The form also goes directly to the IRS, so the government will also have a record of exactly how much money you deposited in your bank account from selling on an online platform in the year. And of course, Uncle Sam wants his cut. However, unlike a normal job, what's included in your 1099K isn't necessarily taxable income. Let's say you purchased a pair of running shoes for $160, but you never wore them, or you decided you didn't want them anymore, but you missed out on the return window. So you decide to go online and sell them on eBay for, let's say, $100. They sell for $100, but you actually paid $160 for these shoes in the first place, so you lost money when you think about the cost that you paid for the shoes, plus the shipping expenses associated with getting them to a new buyer. But to avoid paying 20 to 30% taxes on money that might actually not be taxable income, you need to know how to properly file. So how do you make sure on your own that you're not accidentally overpaying in taxes? How do you know what to do if you don't know how to file the deductions or what even a deduction might be? That's what the third-party platforms say is the big problem. They feel this new legislation is going to unfairly impact a lot of people, most of them being low income in the first place.
Reporting proper income is very important. What we should not do in tax policy is put a bunch of unnecessary, complex and burdensome requirements on people that need it the most. And when we look at our data and who sells on eBay and these other platforms, again, the vast majority of those at a reasonable level of sales are selling goods, and it's not taxable income.
So will new tax laws truly place a burden on the people who need the money the most and potentially cause them to end up paying more in taxes than they're supposed to? I wanted to know the truth. You might be wondering who I am. Well, I'm an independent journalist who used to sell on Poshmark and Mercari, and I know that there is not a lot of quality, in-depth reporting about these platforms. So I decided this legislation really deserved a closer look, especially when you consider that on eBay alone there are 19 million sellers, and a lot of those people really rely on that money to get them by. First, I needed to investigate if the 1099-K filing is hard to navigate for an average person and force people with little money to lose to pay for outside tax help, as eBay claimed. So I tried doing what the IRS suggests if you have a tax question and are filing on your own, to contact them directly. There's a tax hotline that is available 24/7. So it is about 3:30 Pacific time. We'll see what happens. I had to spend a few minutes going through menu options. After about a half a dozen choices, I got through to a real person in the income tax department. I had a question about the new 1099-K law.
Let me transfer you to our miscellaneous tax law that handles 1099-K merchant cards. We transfer you to that department. Make the connection question for you.
Okay, thank you. But this guy really did not know much about it.
You are welcome. Hold on.
We're sorry, but due to extremely high call volume in the topic you requested, we are unable to handle your call at this time. Please try again later or on our next business day. You can also visit us on the web at www.irs.gov. Thank you.
Was this just a fluke? I decided to keep trying to call the IRS.
Again. I'm going to try the number. It's noon Pacific time, so someone should be at the tax office still.
Back through those menu options and another few minutes on hold.
I have a question about the new 1099-K reporting requirements. Are you the right person to ask about that?
I'm going to get you transferred over to the right department.
Okay, thank you. Hi, I had a question about the new 1099-K reporting requirements.
Speak to the next representative,
Okay.
We estimate your wait time to be between 30 and 60 minutes.
How may I help you today?
Hi, I have a question about the new 1099-K reporting requirements.
Like a self-employment is usually Schedule C, so I'll transfer it to tax law people to explain all of this to you.
Okay, thank you.
We estimate your wait time to be between 15 and 30 minutes.
I've had enough of this. I've had enough, so I'm going to hang up.
So is it true that properly filing deductions for a 1099-K can be a headache, one that could require the help of a CPA, therefore costing people more money? I'd say yes.
You know, a lot of what we're hearing is it worth it?
But can the Coalition for 1099-K Fairness actually change anything? Well, they think they can. In fact, they're working with lawmakers to get the law changed by the end of the year. What they're hoping is to get that threshold of reporting raised from $600 up to $5,000.
Under that level, you know, either you're not running a business or maybe you just started to try to run a business. But it is at a threshold where you will take away so much of the pain of that 1, 2, 3 transaction examples that we talked about.
So how is this work at the White House actually going?
Multiple bills out there. There's actually 6 different bills out there addressing this. And, you know, but Congress is a busy place. So we have a lot of work left to do to get this change.
But of course, there is a flip side to all of this. Some people do not want this law changed. They believe that it actually closes a loophole that would allow people to make a bunch of money without paying taxes on it. Now, to be clear, in the past, there was a 1099-K reporting threshold, but that would only be given to people if they made $20,000 on a platform or 200 sales within a year. So in theory, if somebody made just under $20,000 on all of the different platforms, they could make 6 figures a year and not be paying taxes on any of it. I wanted this video to simply be the facts, so I needed to find someone to explain this law from a neutral standpoint. Well, I called in help from an expert. I talked to Mark, who runs the Not Your Dad CPA channel here on YouTube.
I mean, let's say there are millions of small sellers who are not paying taxes. Then from the government's perspective, I think it is potentially a good idea, because then they have visibility and they can enforce, the IRS can do their job and try and get more tax revenue, because it's not an additional tax. It's just giving them visibility to taxes they should already be getting, but maybe aren't getting. So now they can enforce that a little bit more. But I don't think they would have done it were it not for like all of the, the coronavirus relief and all the stimulus checks that they've been sending out. So we're spending a ton of money. Now the government's like, oh shoot, we have to fill this hole somehow that we've created. So let's go after all these, small sellers just trying to make an extra buck. So from that perspective, the reason they did it, I don't know that I appreciate, but so I can see both sides.
And the questions that I wanted to know is, how hard is it actually to figure out how to file these deductions on your own? And also, what happens to the people that get a 1099K and ignore it?
Some people might think like, oh, well, that's not taxable, I'm not going to include it. Or they might, whether they do it intentionally or on accident. Almost always, in my experience, it's usually like a year or two later down the road, the IRS will send you a letter and say, hey, you owe this much in tax. And then if you read further, it'll say, because you didn't include this, let's say $600, let's say you were right on that threshold, you didn't include that on your tax return, so we're going to charge you the additional tax on this $600. It can be a really scary letter to get, especially if your additional tax is up in the thousands of dollars, which often it is. I get those letters pretty frequently from clients. They say, oh, I got this letter, what do I do? And I'll say, oh, it's because you didn't include this, $10,000 of eBay sales that was on your 1099K. And the IRS is taxing you on the full thing. If the person is a beginner or isn't familiar with what's going on, they might get scared and they might pay that whole additional tax. But what they need to do is go back and also include all of the deductions.
Mark has a variety of tax videos for people who sell things online over on his channel, Not Your Dad CPA. He's a great resource for more information. And here's another angle that we still haven't covered. What happens to all of this stuff that people are selling online if they don't sell it online because they don't want to pay taxes on it? I spoke with eBay seller Teresa Cox, who runs Club Red 97 and posts a ton of pre-owned and vintage items online. She started on eBay selling her own stuff, a lot of her own stuff.
I have made over $80,000 selling my personal things that most of us just donate when we move because we don't want to deal with it.
Like many other people, Teresa's eBay hustle started with some bad news.
Unexpectedly got a pink slip one day, and 10 years ago, and I was devastated. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was living in this big 6-bedroom, 3-bath house by myself. And I soon realized that that was a lot of, a huge monthly expense that it was harder to maintain without that guaranteed income. So I decided that I would sell my dream home and downsize.
Now Teresa runs a Facebook group helping other people learn to sell their stuff on eBay. And she's heard a lot of talk about other people giving up after finding out that the government will be giving them a 1099K. She says that eBay's not wrong with assuming that online sellers are going to be dropping like flies when this new legislation really becomes apparent.
I have a 78-year-old woman that, she can use her phone. And so she lists everything and she does everything on her phone and she gets it. But, now she doesn't want to list anything, and she's got her little spreadsheet where she's keeping track of how much money she sold, because once she gets close to 600, she's going to stop. There are so many stay-at-home moms that want to stay at home and take care of their kids, but they can also, their kids grow out of their clothes and they can sell their clothes and they can buy, the next size up on eBay and contribute to the circular economy, and also maybe take some of that money and help with the household expenses. And those people are very concerned about the 1099 because they don't want to have extra tax burden.
And now that you know more about this law, you have something to think about because eBay, Mercari, Poshmark, Tradesy want you to help.
I think the best thing that people can do is reach out to their members of Congress. They go to the coalition website, sign up there. The coalition, as a coalition, can help that. They can also just reach out directly via email or phone calls to members of Congress to let them know that as sellers of used and pre-owned goods, they're very concerned on how this provision will impact them.
The link to get involved, if you want, is down below. Let me know in the comments if you do that, or if you decide not to do that, why or why not. Stay tuned to So Much to Wear for the latest on this tax update.